So this is going to be a video going over the Zwift Academy 2024 finalists. So they've recently been at a training camp and done the final test to decide who gets the contract for the Alpecin de Koenig development team. So yeah, Mattia Gaffuri, Friedrich Klein, Elliot Bain, and Noah Ramsey. So I'm going to be going through just the lads because, to be honest, that's what I'm familiar with. I know what a good power profile is for the guys. I did most of Zwift Academy 2024 myself, so I had my numbers to compare to. I was interested in looking at their numbers, so had a look through their Stravas and had a look at their Zwift profiles to try and scrape the data and have an idea of what power they were able to produce over the different duration test efforts. So to familiarise people, for Zwift Academy 2024 we had 6 workouts and then 2 races. 3 of the 6 workouts were, I'd say they were pure like critical power testing efforts. So these efforts from 30 seconds to 15 minutes, those came from 3 separate workouts. 2 of the workouts were these kind of really interesting sprint workouts. They were really fun actually. I didn't end up doing them, partly because they're not pure tests, and partly because I didn't do them myself and it would be harder to compare to others. I didn't try and pull data from those workouts, but yeah, they looked really interesting. Then the final workout was kind of a heart rate variability test. It was definitely a sub-maximal workout. If you're in peak fitness, workout 4 should have been sub-maximal, and so yeah, didn't pull any data from that because it wasn't really relevant. Then there was 2 races. So the first race was just a pure 30-minute non-drafting hill climb time trial. So again, just adding to that critical power profile of the rider. And then the second race was just a more conventional Zwift race. It was a 40-odd minute race where you have to actually race it tactically, and drafting's involved with the other riders. Getting into the results, I got available. Like I say, Matteo uploaded all his data to Strava, as did Noah. Friedrich uploaded some of his data to Strava, but I was able to have a look at his Zwift profile and kind of estimate some of the power duration efforts that he did for the workouts. Then Elliot, he uploaded a couple of two workouts to Strava, and then his Zwift profile was private. So I really wasn't able to get much data from Elliot, unfortunately. But yeah, got some really good data from the others, so kind of get an idea of what sort of rider they are and predict who I think is probably going to win. So yeah, I think it's kind of the nature of Zwift Academy, the rider it selects for. So we've seen I've been watching it for the past 3 or 4 years, and it always selects for that GC type rider who's really good at the long duration power, and which is funny because Alpecin de Koenig, it's like a one-day classics type squad. When it gets to the finals, they're like, oh, we really want this punchy rider. It's like, maybe it's you can't select for that. If you're discriminating based off the long duration power, you're going to miss out on the punchier riders who maybe aren't as fit. And I think it's because they kind of like, to be a world tour or pro tour rider, like, you just need that fitness. Like, just because Jasper Philipsen's a sprinter doesn't mean he's not extremely fit. Like, he needs really good 10-minute, 40-minute power to get over the climbs to be in contention for a sprint finish at the end. So they're kind of looking for this base fitness, and then they're like thinking, oh yeah, we want this punch afterwards. Whereas maybe it's the case that if there's a rider who has this good long duration power, but they also have the punch, then they're more likely to have got race results already and find themselves into certain teams. That's just speculation, but it is an interesting thing that they're always like, oh, we can't find these punchy riders. Why are we looking for? Why are they only GC riders? It's like, maybe that's just the nature of how Zwift Academy is selecting, but yeah. So looking at this long duration power, obviously they're all extremely fit individuals. They're all also very similar weight. 67 kilos seems to be the norm. Every man and his dog 67 kilos. Noah 69 kilos. It's like, To me, at 85, that's negligible. There's no different. So yeah, they're all essentially the same weight, so you can just compare raw power essentially. And looking at these long duration efforts, I'd say the rider that stands out is Matteo, followed relatively closely by Noah, then Elliot, then Friedrich. It's hard to tell because I don't have much data, but there's probably not that much separating Friedrich and Elliot. Then I'd say Noah's probably a fair bit better at the long duration power than those two riders, and then Matteo's just in a class of his own. Like, it's not random error that Matteo's values are higher. They're significantly, well, a fair bit higher for like every effort. We got almost 10 watts, 20 watts higher. Matteo understands that that's the type of rider he is. He made the finals in 2023. He is just that GC rider that's gonna thrive in a 30-minute, 40-minute time trial at the end of a stage, and he understands that he doesn't have the best punch. His punch isn't terrible, but this is the type of rider he is, that he's able to produce really good power and watts per kilo because he is that typical climbing weight, not too heavy. If they were just looking for a GC rider, it would be Matteo, but obviously they take into account the shorter duration power as well. And like I say, Noah's probably the second best long duration power rider, and he does have a pretty good punch on him. Unfortunately, Elliot's punch, he only uploaded a little bit of data, but from his 30-second and his 1 minute, probably about the same punch or slightly worse than Matteo's. And like I say, Matteo would say that he's not a punchy rider at all. But yeah, Noah has a really nice punch. This 2 minute is a really good indicator of like fatigued power, and he had really good power there. This was after doing a 10-minute effort, so he went really deep on that 10-minute effort and then was able to still produce really good power for the 2 minute. I had to scrape this data, but comparing him to another punchy rider, so Friedrich, he's also got a really nice punch on him. But for this effort, he obviously tried hard, but he didn't produce as much power for that 10-minute effort compared to Noah, and he wasn't able to produce as much power in that 2 minute, even though looking at his 30-second, his 1 minute, you'd be like, okay, he has the edge, that he's a slightly more punchy rider than Noah, but Noah's definitely got that fatigue resistance on him where he's able to produce a higher quality effort after getting multiple kilojoules of work done. It's only really the really short duration power, the 30 seconds to 3 minutes, that separate them. You look at this 5 minute, there's nothing between them at all. It's pretty crazy, which just shows that how much fitness dependent it is. Even though it's a short duration effort, it's very fitness dependent because Matteo is still able to hang in there. It was also at the end of the 5 minute power, it wasn't fresh. We did the 3 minute test followed by the 5 minute test. There wasn't really much separating the riders in this workout. Really impressive from Friedrich. Noah had just about the best numbers, but what's that 5 watts, 3 watts? It's not much in it. Matteo's 3 minute was slightly worse, 20 watts down from the other two. But yeah, exactly the same. Bang on for the 5 minute power. So yeah, it's only this sprinting and anaerobic that we're comparing the different riders. And like I say, Friedrich and Noah have the best punch. Looking at the 30-second and 1 minute that I estimated, Friedrich maybe has a slightly better punch than Noah, but I couldn't say there's much in it. And they're essentially the same weight. So I'd based off this 2 minute, the fatigue resistance, I'd say they're about even, but obviously Noah's a little bit better when it comes to the longer efforts as well. So when it comes to pure rider, trying to evaluate all of this, whilst Friedrich and Noah have an impressive punch on them, I wouldn't say it's like a punch that's like extremely good to separate them away from. It's not that their aerobic fitness is bad, but the amount that Matteo is better aerobically is more impressive than they are anaerobically. So their difference between Matteo's short duration power isn't as impressive to me as Matteo's long duration power is compared to them. So weighing that up, I'd say Matteo's probably the best rider. Noah, he's got the second best numbers for the long duration, and he's got that punch on him. So I'd say Noah's the second best rider. Then Friedrich, and then Elliot. Elliot, it'll be interesting to have a look at the rest of his data, but just from the data we do have, he's about the same as Friedrich and Noah for the long duration stuff, but then probably doesn't have as good a punch as Friedrich and Noah. So for me, I'd go, if I was just rating them on pure ability, I'd go Matteo, Noah, Friedrich, and Elliot. A really controversial thing with the Zwift Academy is they really take age into account, and it's fair enough. Like 18 years old is so young. I mean, 21 is extremely young as well, but like 18, it's like if they think the potential's there and they can develop them, they've got 3 more years of training that they can get under the belt, like 1,000 days of training to try and improve. So it might be the case that they see, okay, no, Friedrich has this really good short duration punch. We can develop this fatigue resistance punch, so bring up that 2-minute power that he's able to produce at the end of 10 minutes. And maybe they're thinking, okay, we can bring him up to the sort of power that Noah's doing, or even better. And then he's a really fit rider who can do these long efforts, but then he has a nice punch on him as well. So for age, obviously, I think they'd go Friedrich. Noah's obviously super young. He's a great all-rounder. Then I'd say they'd go with Matteo. He's an extremely good rider, but they just don't rate people for their age, which is kind of unfortunate. And then Elliot, it's hard to tell because, just like I say, there's not much data here, but nothing's standing out. So maybe tied with Matteo for age, but yeah, I don't know how much they weight it. It feels like they weight it a lot and more than they should, but you know. Another thing this is kind of quite speculative as well, having a look at the experience of the rider. I'm pretty sure Matteo's a very experienced racer. He's done lots of racing for years. Noah, he looks like he has a fair bit of experience too. Then I looked at Friedrich, and I'm pretty sure he's quite new to racing. I might be wrong there. Obviously, he's Canadian German. It's like I'm not sure how to look up his results. And then Elliot's extremely new to racing. 2024 was his first year doing some racing. He signed up for a couple of time trials over the past 4 years, but didn't start them. But yeah, he had a full season of road racing under his belt from 2024 in British cycling as a Scot. But yeah, he's extremely new to the sport, very much like myself. It'll be really interesting to see. The first episode's going live on Saturday, I believe, on GCN. So yeah, I'll be following that and seeing who comes out on top. So I'd like to think they pick Matteo because I think he is the best rider. The best all rounder is Noah, and he is young, like 4 years. I don't like the age thing because if I qualify for the Zwift Academy finals for 2025, I'll be 25 years old at the start of 2026 for those workouts. So it's like I don't want to be like, oh no, they'll just discount you because of your age, but they do seem to do that. So let's say, taking the experience into account, I get the impression that Friedrich's not that experienced as well. So let's say Noah first, Matteo second, Friedrich third, Elliot fourth. You know, thought it'd be also interesting to go over my Zwift Academy 2024 results and have a look at kind of what it takes to maybe make the finals for 2025. As I mentioned, they're really keen on picking that rider that's got the long duration power. And I say my long duration power is good in terms of watts per kilo because I am a heavier rider. It's never going to be quite as good. But the nature of the racing that I want to do, this is the area where I'm probably going to see the most improvement anyway. So I'm not too concerned about that. But I think kind of if I wanted to make the finals, I'd want to kind of, how would I set myself apart? And I think that would be through being that punchier rider, so having that really good 30-second to 5-minute power. I'd see moderate improvements in my long duration power, but if I was to make the finals, I'd have to see good improvement in this really short duration power. So I was really happy with how I did in 2024. So comparing to my results from 2023, I compared, though it was quite comparable. So we had a fresh 30-second in 2023 and 2024. We had a fatigued 30-second and a fatigued 2-minute in 2023. So I've compared them to the fresh-ish 1 minute and the fresh 3-minute power we did. So here's a percentage improvement. So my 30-second fresh power went up 13%. My 1 minute slightly fatigued power was 89% of my fatigued 30-second power, which 30-second and 1 minute are very, very different efforts. So to be in reaching distance of the two, I'd say that was really good. So these are Matteo's changes from 2023 and 2024. So that 89% compared to Matteo's 86%. I saw a nice improvement in my 30-second. Matteo's slightly improved, but relatively the same. I saw a 6% improvement in my fresh 2-minute power. That was a fatigued 2 minutes. So Matteo saw a 92%, so an 8% loss. But we've got to remember that this was 2023. We had a fresh 2 minute. This was a fatigued 2 minute in 2024. So for me to see an improvement in my fatigued 2 minute compared to my fresh 2 minute from a year ago was a really nice improvement. Then here, this was a fatigued 2 minute. So after the first 2 minute, comparing to a fresh 3 minute, so they're somewhat more comparable. But yeah, a nice 10% jump compared to a 2% loss. So these losses from Matteo, that doesn't mean he's got worse at those efforts necessarily, because it's comparing apples to oranges to an extent. But I'm just highlighting the fact that I've seen really good improvements in these durations, even though I'm comparing apples to oranges. So someone else saw a loss in those efforts compared to my gain. So yeah, really happy with those. And for example, the 5 minute, I was bang on with last year. Matteo is kind of the same, to be honest. Also comparing 8 minute, 10 minute, yeah, similar sort of thing. So I didn't see crazy improvement in the long duration stuff, to be honest, with this last 2024's academy. For example, my 30-minute power was pretty much bang on with what I did in 2023. But even though it's not really been something I'd focused on, my improvements in my short duration 30-second to 5-minute power have been the main thing that have stepped up in that year, from my racing and training experience getting under the belt. But just based on the nature of the training that I do, I'm probably going to see I'm more focused on these longer efforts anyway. So they'll probably come up with time. But kind of how much do I need them to improve to be in a really good stead for qualifying for the finals? So that 30-second 9:40 was pretty damn good, to be honest. Try and improve that a little bit. 9:60, best 30-second I've done outside has been 9:70. So trying to close that gap to my best outdoor power, which could be possible. The same with the 1 minute. I guess this was quite a hard 1 minute because you were fatigued from the 30 seconds, especially a good 30 seconds like 9:40. But yeah, try and close the gap to my best outdoor power. I've done like one good outdoor test and I did about 800, almost 800. If I could close the gap to that'd be fantastic. 2 minute power was where I saw the best improvement from 2023. I really struggled. This was, like I say, this was a fatigued 2 minute power and it was better than a fresh 2 minute power. So yeah, I've exceeded this now. I've done 6:30 is the best I've done indoor testing. So yeah, just see a nice little bit of more improvement on that. Just push it to like 6:40. The 3 minute, again, just want to see like a little bit more improvement. I guess that 5 minute is more based off the 3 minutes. Like if the 3 minutes getting that high, I guess this would be like for a fresh 5 minute. For a fatigued 5 minutes, similar to what we did in the academy in 2024 and 2023, I'd probably look something more like 5:30. So try and see a similar bump to what I saw with my 3 minute power, but maybe a fresh fresh 5 minute of something ridiculous like 560 odds, and then just continue to see good improvements in my long duration power as well, which will just come with the training and racing, and then hopefully that will be good enough to make it to the finals, and then see how it goes from there. And obviously my speciality is being a time trialist, and would that be something that Abson de Koenig would want? I don't know, but 2023 I knew nothing about cycling, and it was like, I've got a good engine, I'll try and make finals at Zwift Academy, and then I'm like, okay, it's harder than I thought, and then did my first season, I'm like, okay, it's a lot harder than I thought. But for 2024 it was just a really nice thing to do at the end of the season, get some critical power testing under the belt. I maintained the form from my national TT prep, and produced some really good numbers that I was really happy with. So it's just a nice thing to do at the end of the season, really, and I was really happy with when they announced that they were moving the date and extending the date of Zwift Academy so that you were able to kind of hold that form from the end of the Northern Hemisphere season and use that fitness to show them what numbers you can actually produce. I've also got some data from some other people here. So Zach Neer did Zwift Academy in 2023. He did it in 2024, but like me, he didn't complete all of the workouts. So I can compare his changes between 2023 and 2024, just to verify that the comparisons I was making were making sense. He didn't see a huge amount of change in that 30-minute power, and then his 2-minute fatigued power and his 3-minute power were pretty much in line. So that's like a not horrible comparison. So the fatigued 2-minute, it was essentially the same as the fresh 3-minute. Mattia showed the same. They were very, very, very similar. Nice confirmation that this 3-minute power was a really good effort from me, and something I should be really proud of. Like, this 3-minute was probably my best performance from the Zwift Academy, to be honest. Zach didn't complete all the workouts, but still interesting to have a look at. Really interesting to find out about was an athlete that Zach coaches, called Hayden Pucker. Now both of them went to the UCI Esports finals in Abu Dhabi, and Hayden came 5th, I believe. This guy Hayden Pucker. I mean, I'm a big lad, and he's not that much heavier than me. I'm like at the moment I'm like 85 kilos, 88 to 90 kilo range, I'd say. So he's not that much heavier than me, but the numbers that he's producing on the bike is just absolutely bananas. And you'd think, oh, okay, his trainer's broken, like these values just aren't accurate. But he races in my whoosh where they have to have a verified trainer. They have someone come do like a calibration test against a verified power meter. When he went to Abu Dhabi, like he's racing on verified equipment there, and he's still producing these ridiculous numbers. Like he's got an estimated FTP of like 500 watts, and the scary part is he can actually almost do it. So he completed all of Zwift Academy 2024. There were strong riders they picked for the finals for this year that we're gonna see, but there's nothing like crazy about any of these numbers. So the fact that you had someone who was producing just absurd numbers for every single workout, like not putting a foot wrong, why not at least like, you don't have to pick him to join your development team, but surely it would have been really interesting to see how these numbers translate to the tests you do out on the road. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of the tests they're doing, they're just like, okay, we're doing a 4-minute hill climb repeat, a 10-minute hill climb repeat. Like, Hayden would still be producing these ridiculous numbers, and just see how that translates. And he was saying that like he just wanted to would want to be like a domestique, you know. I don't know, maybe he even turned down the opportunity to do the Zwift Academy because he's gonna go ride with American Magic in the boat team. I have no idea what he's doing, but looking at his numbers, man, like just out of this world for every single duration. And it just would have been really, really interesting to see how that stacks up against the lighter riders, the 67 kilo riders that actually made the finals. So going through these are just like goal numbers for me to strive towards one day, sort of thing. Like 30 seconds at 1100 compared to mine like 950 odd. 1 minute at 940. 2 minutes at 660. So he's got this really good punch on him, but then he stands out over these long duration efforts, like doing 30 minutes at 530 watts. What? That's absurd, man. So yeah, you'd think, he's producing monster watts. It's just because he's a super punchy guy. No, he stands out because of these long duration efforts, and yeah, he rides at a very low cadence. He can ride at a slightly higher cadence, like a more typical cadence, like 80 odd, but he'll often be chugging away at like 60 RPM, which is, you'd be like, okay, that doesn't work in the real world, but at the end of the day, power's power. If you go do a high torque effort where you're pushing 50 RPM, if you're pushing the power, you're still going to be chugging along, you know. So it might not look pretty, but if it delivers the power, like it's undeniable. So yeah, these numbers that Hayden produced were absolutely absurd, and it's not just for the punchy stuff. It is mainly, these were the more impressive efforts to me. The 10 minutes at 550, the 15 minutes at 520, and 30 minutes at 530. Like, honestly, out of this world. Combined with having that punch on him, so it would have been extremely interesting. I'm not sure why they didn't invite him to the finals, or why he if he decided not to go. I doubt he would have decided not to go, having done all the workouts. But you know, and it would have been like, okay, he's not just this esports guy. That can translate to out on the road, and yeah, it would have been interesting. But I'm sure the Zwift Academy finals will be a really good watch. I've enjoyed watching it for the past few years, even before I was really into the cycling. See who ends up securing that contract. Come on, Matteo.